China has lodged a strong protest with Afghanistan's Taliban government after a Chinese mine worker was killed in the Takhar province. The attack claimed by the Islamic State has raised concerns over the safety of Chinese nationals in the region. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning expressed China's shock and condemnation, urging swift action against the perpetrators. The victim was reportedly travelling without security escorts, a step typically mandatory for Chinese nationals in Afghanistan. This incident underscores the continued security challenges in Afghanistan despite Taliban claims of stability. ISIS remains active, targeting civilians, officials and foreign nationals. We're first joined on this story by the guest Andrew K.P. Leung, who is an international and independent China strategist, joining us from Hong Kong. Andrew, thank you very much for your time. Looking at this attack that's happened on a Chinese national, is this a big wake-up call for the Chinese government about whether the Taliban government in Afghanistan can be trusted?
Well, this is, of course, not the first time that Chinese nationals working increasingly overseas being attacked by various factions or terrorists. But this particular attack is claimed by a group allied with the East Turkestan kind of independence movement. Is a kind of separatist group in China's huge Xinjiang province. I think that the rise of the Taliban in Afghanistan and also the change of regime in Syria, now under the control of groups also allied to the Xinjiang independence movement, does worry China. So while China's Belt and Road Initiative would welcome the connections with these countries, Afghanistan and also Syria, to helping with the reconstruction of these war-torn territories. But on the other hand, because of the connections of the ruling regime's connections with the Xinjiang independence movement, so China's walking over this issue quite gingerly. And on the one hand, China want to help the reconstructing these countries. On the other hand, this is a very dangerous kind of movement, and above all, some of these groups are also branded as terrorists by the United Nations and Western countries, including the United States.
We're also joined by Ambassador Anil Triganayat, who's a distinguished fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador Triganayat. Looking at the Taliban's rule, once they came back into power, they promised that there would be order. They promised that issues like this wouldn't happen and the rise of extremist terrorism wouldn't happen. Is this another indication that the Taliban aren't necessarily doing the job that they should be?
Well, let us also understand the grassroots reality in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan is still a state which is not managed. There are a large number of militant groups, including the ISIS, ISKP, and the ETIM, as our Chinese friend said, as well as the Al-Qaeda groups in at least 15 of those states. So it is not that they are not there. But the Taliban, I doubt very much, has the capacity to control all those groups until and unless it has some kind of an international assistance. That does not happen. So therefore, all these groups are continuing to operate in different ways. The only thing the Taliban actually leadership promised is that from their territory, they will not allow the militancy or the extremism to go out. But that is also they are not able to do so. They will not be able to do so because the terror groups do work like a syndicate. They support one another in different parts of the world. And unfortunately, we have seen that ever since certain groups which used to be treated as designated terrorist groups in different parts, whether it is Pakistan, Afghanistan, or even in Syria or for anywhere else, they are being legitimized. So once they know that they can, by following their tactics, they can even achieve that Islamic State or whatever their views or objectives are, then obviously, I mean, the fight against terrorism will always be compromised. And that's precisely what one is looking at today happening. And I believe that that is going to continue for a long time, as long as the major states, the big powers, continue to have this policy of my terrorist is better than yours, or the good terrorist and bad terrorist kind of a policy.
Andrew, looking at the relationship between China and Afghanistan, potential there for China to become a large investment partner in the country, do you think incidents like this will have an impact, or do you think there might be brushing under the rug so that those relations and those ties can continue?
Well, I think that the Middle East and the Arab Peninsula, and for that matter, Central Asia, is of extreme importance to China. Is a major conduit for China to connect with the global South. Also, there's an arc of instability, but also opportunities for huge reconstruction, because these are war-torn countries. And of course, it's a very important passageway for China's Belt and Road Initiative. But as pointed out just now, this is also a hotbed for various terrorist groups and ethnic kind of infighting. But China has recently successfully brokered some kind of almost impossible impasse between different countries. For example, the historic rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and also brokering a kind of coalition of different groups in Palestine. So I think that China may try to see how the situation could be stabilized by maybe talking to different groups. But this is complicated by this connection with the Xinjiang independence movement, because whereas China is quite willing to talk to the various factional groups, but on the other hand, it's a different story with the Xinjiang independence movement, because Xinjiang is simply far too important a province for China. Again, it is a very large province, accounting for, I think, about 1/6 of China, and then it's very rich in resources, and also as a passageway for China to connect with the Eurasia. So I think that China would approach the situation quite gingerly, I would use the word.
Andrew K.P. Leung and also Ambassador Anil Triganayat, thank you very much for both joining us.